Hi, everybody. Thomas Miller from the Fun Astrology video podcast. We're going to do a weekly overview here and take a look at what we have this week ahead, starting with Monday, November 11th. And we don't have a whole lot in the sky, but we do have a full moon on Friday. So let's jump in and take a look at the charts. Now, the first thing that I wanted to show you, and I meant to do this last week, I forgot, I apologize, but I wanted to show you how you can set your chart to the grid view. Now, not all software programs have this, but I just moved from the wheel to the grid. And if you have this capability in your software, it is really cool to do. And you can get a real fast glance at kind of what the week is looking like. Now, don't worry about this line here. This is showing parallels and contraparallels. That's stuff that we're not going to worry about. Okay, so we're just focusing over here on this side of the line. But what you can do is, like just right now, focus your eyes on that, and let's do this. Draw a line right here, and just focus on everything above that. So just this area right here. You see more blue than red? Or is it mixed? You get an idea of kind of what the week is looking like. Over the last couple of weeks, we were 13 blue, which are favorable aspects, to about 3 to 5 red. But look at how things are shifting here on Monday, November 11th. If we just score this, so the first thing we have is a triangle. That's a trine. And you can look at this, and most software programs follow some similar format. That's 2 degrees applying 10 minutes. So 2 1/3 minutes away, or sorry, 10 out of 60 of 20%, 2.15 or something degrees. Yeah, we just got complicated. 2 point something degrees from that applying trine, which is a 120 degree aspect between the sun and the moon. That's how you read this. And you can just glance through and you can see, okay, so let's score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, and then 11. And I don't do the ascendant and the midheaven. And then this has the part of fortune, which is here. You can do that if you want. So what did we come up with? 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's just go with that. So we have 10 positive, and how many negative do we have? So actually, I'm going to wipe all that out. Sorry. So we have 10 positive, and then we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. But I have on here, this little guy is called the quincunx. And that is considered a negative aspect. So let's consider that too. 6, 7, and then see this down here? This is a quindecile, or some people call it quindecile, an Italian pronunciation that was popularized by wonderful astrologer Noel Teal. We're going to count that one too. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more challenging aspects. And remember, with all of this, the challenging aspects are there for us to grow. So they're there to provide a little tension or resistance. Think of a weight machine at the gym. If you went into the weight machine at the gym and sat down and pushed the bar and there was nothing there but just the weight of the bar, which was minimal, would you get any benefit from sitting at that machine? Not a lot. I mean, at least you're moving. But boy, if you put 25 or 50 or 100 pounds on that machine, now we're getting somewhere. Well, that's the same thing here. And with this, squares are a little bit more weight, a little bit more challenging than oppositions. And the quincunxes and the quindeciles are probably on the lighter side of like that analogy, but still providing tension to grow. And that's the whole purpose. And once you've done that and just kind of taken a check look at what's going on for the day, then you can pop back over and take a look at the wheel. And the only thing that happens on Monday happens in the afternoon, 1:30 Eastern Time. Venus moves into sign of Capricorn. And notice that I have this chart set to 0 degrees Aries. This is called the natural wheel, where we set it to the beginning of the tropical western zodiac at 0 degrees Aries. Springtime, we're starting at the beginning. So all of the signs going around are in zodiacal order. And this gives you a good perspective. And you can absolutely read this chart as the information that it presents. So when Venus moves into Capricorn this afternoon, on this day, on Monday, it will be in the 10th house of natural order. So there is this not only structure, but also this shining out. And I'll tell you, in light of what we had last week with the election, and again, not taking any sides, I'm giving both sides a hug, and just we're going to be okay, because we're going to stay on our highest timeline, and we're going to let them do whatever they do, and we're going to do what we do, and we are tied into our home office, not their office, not their house, our house, and we're going to follow our direction and our drumbeat and our path. And we're here. We're in this country. We have a lot of freedom, and we're going to continue to do what we do. And if we're called into something, like whatever it might be, service, leaving, some people are saying they want to leave, whatever it is, just make sure it's coming from your heart, connected to the home office, that it's an intuitive prompt, not a knee-jerk reaction to something that we're not going to control anyway. So we're just going to stay the course and do our thing and follow our path, right? And this helps show us the way. Now, for Tuesday, we get into some interesting chart structure, but there's only one exact aspect up in the sky. You notice how the planets are just scattered evenly around the wheel? Mark Edmund Jones, a wonderful astrologer about 100 years ago, coined terms for chart patterns. He talked about the bucket and, all the names I forget. There's like 8 different chart patterns, but this one is called the splay pattern. And it's basically exactly what it is. You just take the planets and you throw them at the chart, and they end up all around like this. And what it gives us is the symmetry and those aspects that we saw when we went to the grid view. So we'll look at a couple of the things going on here in the middle, because isn't that a bunch of beautiful symmetry? And they're like, wow, well, I see a rectangle. What else do you see? Well, we'll look at a couple of things. So the only aspect on Tuesday is Mercury, which is in Sagittarius, which is a sign that it's not so happy in, and it's slowed down. It started slowing down last week. It's getting ready to go retrograde on the 25th, is in a square to Saturn. And Saturn is all about delays and confusions, if you will, Neptune confusions. But Saturn, from the standpoint of a square with Mercury, could definitely confuse communication, so that you had to come back and straighten it out. Or you had to come back and stop and think, wow, how am I communicating with people around me right now? So be careful with that. And Saturn is over there in the 12th house. That can be confining. So this is one of those days. Whenever Mercury is in a challenging or negative opposition or square aspect to another planet, I always just stop and think about the count to 5 method. Be careful what you say. Take your time. Be calculated, which we really should do anyway, especially right now because nerves are just so fragile. We got to give everybody a lot of extra space, because for a lot of people, for half of the country, I mean, statistically, 1 out of 2 people that you encounter is hurting inside right now. The other one is elated, and thrilled. So you have to kind of dance that dance of, you can share in the elation, and you may not share politically, but in other words, the energy is going to be higher over there, and you're going to have to go to compassion over here. And I think one of the true signs of spiritual maturity, when it merges with politics, is that you can walk into a room and you can hold hands with anybody in there. So what you do is you just let go of everything, and then you trust in a higher source, a higher power, and your connection with that higher power to tell you what to do. And then you look in your chart every day and you kind of go, oh, well, okay, maybe this isn't going to be so bad, or here's how this might affect me. And you put this chart with your natal chart, and then you start to put these things together. Now, you notice today we have something we didn't have. The rectangle. Yup, you saw it, didn't you? As soon as we talked about it, or probably before. So let's talk about this for a second. It's called a mystic rectangle, and it is one of the most powerful, dynamic, influential configurations in astrology. And then we're going to, what? We're going to probably, well, let's just pick all three of these on that corner. On that corner. So what are we dealing with? Well, there's a lot of karma represented here, for one thing, because the nodes of the moon, which are not points in the sky, but they are our karmic path represented in the chart, they are in this mystic rectangle. So all of a sudden and immediately, we think of, okay, we're doing some soul business here with this. It's blue, so it's positive. Yay for that. So it really wants to thrust us forward. There's good energy around it. So we also interpret the positive sides of the players on the corners. We have the moon, which is our emotions, our subconscious mind, our inner self, our desires are here. And don't we all, after this past week, have a lot of new desires? Neptune, there's our connection with the home office. See, it's plugged in, I'm telling you. So you have double sign of intuition. You've got Neptune, and you have the moon. That's a double sign of intuition. And it's right there at the cusp, or this line of the first house, which is the essence of all of you projected out into the world. Who you're being for others. So see, even with this, and this here again, I'm just, here's a double theme in the chart, that what we're talking about is you holding your ground and your solid spiritual connection so that you can help others with theirs. You be the rock, because the world's going to need us to do that for them, with them. That's one of our primary roles of the next several years, as a lot of dominoes trip. I've been narrating Ray Merriman's Forecast 2025 book. It's the 49th time he's written this annual almanac. It is incredible, but a lot of stuff is going to happen over the next 2 years. And so we have to really have our A game on as far as who we're going to be. Are we going to be reactionary, or are we going to be stable? And when you pick the positive side of Neptune, now Neptune can be reactionary. There's your, I got to leave the country. But it's also, wait a minute, I got to stay here to be a light shining in the darkness. I got to be a light shining to people who are coming into a spiritual path. I think we're getting ready to have a spiritual revival. The energy has shifted toward that, I think. So watch for it and be open to new conversations around people interested in, hey, why are you not so rattled here? You should be, kind of thing, that conversation. And then also, on the other side, hold on a second, let's don't look at a man, especially somebody we don't know and don't interact with, to be our savior. Because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of euphoria, and we're putting our trust in things that we shouldn't be putting our trust in. A man is not going to save us. A man is not going to help anybody from that perspective. You know what I'm talking about. And I know you ladies are saying, you're darn right. I heard you. You know what I'm talking about. The system is not going to save you. And right now we're changing drivers of the system. That's all it is. The system, if the system is your hope, there are other channels on YouTube for that. But seriously, think about this. This is your connection with your soul and with God being represented, and your karmic path. We all chose to be here right now. So let's game up and not let all this noise distract us. Yeah, we can have a preference. That's fine. I'm not saying, we would have a preference. That's normal. But let's don't make it our priority. That's all. Pluto. Now, Pluto's interesting because, it is 52 minutes. So it is just for Pluto, it'll take a while. It's another couple of weeks before it moves into, finally, for the last time, it will move into the sign of Aquarius. But boy, it is doing its last little bit of business in Capricorn. And what that is moving away from the old and moving into the new as far as things like technology. There's going to be a technological revolution. I'm sitting here reading about it in the Merriman forecast book. We're talking about, I think, a new wave in astrology is going to be part of this. And with that, kind of a cousin, spirituality. That's what I was talking about, this move towards spirituality. We're hearing with the new plans that a lot of old things that don't serve in our country might be dealt with. We'll see. That would be moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. Things that don't serve us anymore. Old structures falling apart and clearing the space so that we can build new structures. That's the theme of Pluto moving into Aquarius, and that's going to be with us for the next 20 years. So when it moves in, I believe it's on the 17th, it will be until 2043 that it's in there. It's a long run. And we are going to be dealing with that energy all the way through. The other obvious point that we mentioned is the South Node. So there's the four corners of this mystic rectangle, all working together, our karmic path, dealing with us first. And then as we help others, working with others. Oh, I forgot the midheaven down here, which is also pretty close to Mars, if you can see that, the midheaven is our career, if you will. And if you don't work, that's fine. It's like how you present yourself as a leader in our community, in our world, your peg in the board of service to others is the midheaven. So you get the picture of how this is putting all of this together from this beautiful perspective of, wow, what a time for this mystic rectangle, to show up, of showing us that we are here for this purpose. If you followed anything with Dolores Cannon, or still do, I mean, she passed, but if you follow her work, then you know that that was her, a lot of her message is exactly what's being reflected here, that we are the catalysts for this new era that's going to be happening when Pluto moves into Aquarius. And also the other thing that's going to affect this in 2026 early, it happens in 2025, but then they come back out. But Saturn and Neptune both are going to move into the sign of Aries, and that's the new era, as Merriman is calling it, AIRA, because these are air signs. Well, this one is Aquarius. And this is such a critical point right here. This zero Aquarius is just going to be so strong as all of this unfolds over these next couple of years. Now, there's another really cool aspect that I love to find and I love to talk about. It's called a yod. And let's just see, there's another quincunx here, but there's not another one. So that's the only yod here. Yes. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. See, there's another green line, that quincunx right there, but it doesn't attach to anything. So we have a yod, and they call this a witch's hat because if you turn it up that way, it kind of looks like one, doesn't it? Well, what's at the top? The sun. That's the most important piece of this because the energy of this is thrusting up into the sun. What's the sun representing here? You and me. So this is very personal with what this is doing, and it's exactly the same theme that we just saw. Jupiter on one side and Chiron, the wounded healer, on the other. And boy, is it ever tight. Look at these degrees, 19 degrees, 19 degrees, 20 degrees. This sucker is really tight. So the same message here. And a quincunx is kind of almost a fated, destined kind of energy. So Jupiter in Gemini is us taking a look at both sides now. You remember who was it? Judy Collins sang Both Sides Now. I'm looking at both sides now. And that's where I'm saying is if we can just put our emotions down and we can look at both sides of where we are in our world, then we can also see the spiritual reality. Remember, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And as spiritual beings, we are connecting with a lot of folks who are only having a human experience. They haven't integrated the spiritual side of life yet. Gemini, a dual sign. Look at the glyph. It's the Roman numeral 2. It's divided. It's 2. It's the twins. It's one and then it's another. And that's exactly what this is showing us, is that we are, through this Yod's symbolism, to be looking at the full spectrum of the world around us. And with Jupiter in Gemini, it is magnifying things around communications and messages and reaching out to the people. Transportation, in other words, taking the message out, is all represented by Jupiter. That's the purpose of what we're doing right now, like what's right in front of us and what the sky is kind of shouting down to us right now. You are the messenger. You are the transformation, because Chiron represents our unhealed wounds, both from the past and from this life. This is a signature of sympathy and empathy again in the sky. When you see more than one, when it starts to stack up, then you know that that's a real clear message of where the energy is focused right now. This is a healing symbolism. It really is, if we choose to. If we step back into the emotional fray, then we're on the wrong side of this Gemini Jupiter. And then Jupiter, Jupiter, here's something I'll show you. Let me show you this. It's called, in astrology, they call it mutual reception. What that means is that Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So Jupiter is the ruler in astrology. In other words, it oversees that sign, and Mercury oversees Gemini, that sign. They're in the wrong place. They're in each other's backyard. Well, it actually strengthens things, and they start to work cooperatively together, even though they'd rather be home. You know, they're like, Mercury, I don't know where your toothbrush is, but or your toothpaste. I sure need to borrow some. You know, it's like this kind of thing. No, they'd rather be home, but while they're there, as long as they look over and say, oh, I see you're over there, well, let's just work together and let's work through this and we'll get by, is a good way to look at it. So yes, they're pulling on each other, but at the same time, it brings their energies together. And the other one that we'll cover, we'll kind of get 2 days into one here. On Friday, we have a full moon. Now, full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. So that happens at, I'm looking at my almanac here, 4:28 in the afternoon. 4:28 in the afternoon. So a little bit early for, to see it brilliantly. So you'll want to catch it either the night before or the night after for full brilliance. It will be at 24 degrees Taurus, 1 minute. So the sun moves over this way just a wee bit. The moon moves over and catches up with it. But notice that when the sun moves over here to 24 degrees, it is sitting almost right there on top of Uranus. And yes, the moon crosses over Uranus, but also the sun crosses over Uranus. And that happens on Saturday evening, about 9:45 Eastern Time. So this full moon will basically be an opposition to Uranus as well. And Uranus is all about surprises. It's the aha, jack-in-the-box, boing, surprise. You didn't see that coming, did you? Well, it also rules things like astrology and our hidden genius. So all bundled up in this full moon could be surprises. It could be wonderful opportunities. It could be spiritual enlightenment. It could be that you just get a prompt and say, I'm going to buy that guy's Fun Astrology 101 course and I'm going to start learning astrology. Whatever it is, you're going to be under the influence of both the sun and the moon, the full moon, combined with the planet of surprises, Uranus. So what a fun time that's going to be. And that will be next Friday. We cruise into the weekend with a really light schedule. There's not a whole lot else happening next week. We'll cover every day of it on the audio podcast. You can pick it up on all the audio players and also right here on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video, and you can catch the audio podcast here on YouTube every day this week. Have a wonderful week, everybody. I'll see you next weekend. Thanks for watching.